made it to Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession on the world's #1 chiropractic podcast. Before we dive into this powerful episode, please remember to subscribe to our channel and give us a 5-star rating on iTunes and continue hustling. This episode is sponsored by Imaging Services, Chiro Health USA, Chiro Moguls, Chiropractic Rocks, Pure Chiro Notes, Titronics, doTERRA, Sherman College of Chiropractic, New Patients in a Box, the Influencer Authority podcast training. Let's hustle.
Hey guys, welcome to episode 352 of the Chiro Hustle podcast. I am your co-host, Luke Millette, and here's your host, James Chester.
So today we have the opportunity of interviewing Dr. Frank Corbo. And if you want to know how to grow chiropractic at the speed of trust, stay tuned. Welcome back. This is another episode of the Chiro Hustle podcast. Big one, 352. We've crossed the threshold over 350 today, which is really cool. I have Dr. Frank Corbo coming in from Frisco, Texas. My co-host Luke Millette coming in from Ann Arbor, Michigan. And I, your host, Jim Chester, coming in from Grand Junction, Colorado. And before we get into this episode, I always kind of set the ground rules for people, let them know what it's all about, why we do what we do. We do protect free speech in chiropractic with this show, Chiro Hustle. It's one of the major components to why we've been so crazy successful with this show, because we stand for something. We also protect the sacred trust. And if you guys don't know what that is, go do a search for it immediately to find out what that means and why the show is significant towards doing that. And then we do support subluxation-based chiropractic, universal intelligence, and innate intelligence. And if you need a refresher on those things, go do a search for that too. Maybe find a book. So with that being said, Dr. Frank, welcome to our show.
Gosh, thank you so much, Jim, Luke, for having me, and also thank you for what you're doing. You know, we're at a place right now where when you speak your mind, you get canceled. And so we need you now more than ever to carry the chiropractic lifestyle message to the marketplace. And so thank you for asking me to be on the show. I really appreciate it.
Well, it means a lot to us, and I'm sure our listeners are going to benefit greatly from having you on as our guests today. And I'm really excited because I don't really know you. And, we just kind of warmed the microphones up before we went live 10 minutes ago, and started telling you about how we do what we do and asking you about some of the stuff that you do. But for people out there that might not know you or might not know your chiropractic story, that are our listeners and potentially your friends, your family, your patients, your colleagues, maybe refresh them too. Who is Dr. Frank Corbo?
Yeah, it's a great question. I like to, in this circle, I'll get right to it with my chiropractic story, but often we're defined by what we do and not who we are. So I'm known as Papa now. I have 3 daughters and 2 granddaughters. Been married for 31 years to my beautiful wife, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that as we go along. But I think my chiropractic journey starts like most chiropractors. They have a personal experience with chiropractic that changes their life. And that was kind of my story. My mom and dad sought chiropractic care in their lives because of back pain. And so I started to see my chiropractor, who's an icon in chiropractic, Dr. Mandel. He passed away recently. He's responsible for me getting into chiropractic, but I was very active as an athlete, and I got chiropractic care for my sports career. And it literally changed my life because as I started to play more and more, you get more injuries and things like that. And when I got adjusted, my athletic performance increased. And so because of that, I was able to, as a football player in high school, I was able to become an All-American, and then that led to doors opening for playing football in college, small college, but college nonetheless. And I was the first person in my family to go to college, so it was really life-changing. And so, like most, that's how it started for me.
Your story parallels mine really, really closely. Not married though, no kids, and wasn't an All-American. But I went on to play soccer in college at a small school, and I got into chiropractic because of a high school football injury.
Yeah.
And that's how I got into it. But I didn't become the chiropractor either. I just became a massive advocate because I knew when I got adjusted, I felt better. And I'm like, well, if everybody just felt this, like they would all thrive. Like it made so much. It was so crystal clear to me that if a person just would get adjusted
Mm-hmm.
occasionally, like I didn't even know what a care plan was. I was just like, Mom, I need to go see the chiropractor. I got a game tomorrow. I just knew my innate was so turned on that I
Mm-hmm.
knew that when I got adjusted, I would perform better.
Yeah, go figure. The power that made the body heals the body, right? Right. That's the way it is. But when, I'll get into this maybe a little bit down the road, but um, I have a confession to make. And that is that before I became a chiropractor, I used to work for Big Pharma. Okay. So part of my background is understanding the pharmaceutical industry from the inside. My first job out of college, my undergraduate, I sold products for cataract surgery on the streets of New York City. So I carried the sales bag, and anybody that's done that learns very quickly how to persevere through a lot of no's, right? So it was a big ingredient in who I became and who I am right now. So I was formally trained, Dale Carnegie sales trained. Then I got an opportunity to work for Sandoz Pharmaceuticals in Milan, Italy. So my family, I'm 100% Italian. My mom's family, my dad's family from Italy, and when I got this opportunity to go to Milan, they said, "How would you like to go to Milan?" I was like, "You got to be kidding me!" Of course. So I was 24, 25 years old. I left for Italy, and that's where I worked for Sandoz, and I was part of their strategic marketing and planning team. And I really learned why the pharmaceutical industry is so big and so good at what they do. Forget about the fact that it's a pill and a potion for anything that ails you, and a lot of what ails America now is because of the pharmaceutical companies. But I learned the direct to consumer model. I was there in the late 80s, early 90s when the first direct to consumer campaign came out, which was Ask Your Doctor. Do you guys remember the first campaign, what they said to ask your doctor for? The purple pill. That was the first one. So I understood marketing. That company at the time, Sandoz, did about $12 billion a year. This is when a billion was a billion, right? Not half of what a athletic contract could be, right? This was a big time for the pharmaceutical industry. So I learned direct to consumer marketing from them. That's also where I met my wife. So my wife was traveling in Europe. She was a fashion model. She came to Milan for all the shows, and so that's where we met. And that's what led to me getting to the chiropractic profession. Because while I was there, my next stop after being in Italy for 2 years was Switzerland for 2 years, then Japan for 2 years, and I had just met the person I wanted to get married to, and I was like, man, I don't want to do this for the rest of my life. I don't want to be traveling all over the world. That would be so terrible, right? Traveling all over the world, having fun. But for me, I just wanted something different. And so I called my buddy from Italy. I was in Italy and I called my buddy, Pat Barbado, who was a very, very good quarterback. He was our high school quarterback, went on to play college football at Temple. Great, great quarterback. And he was a chiropractor at the time. Right. So I called him. I said, dude, what's up with chiropractic? He was like, oh, man, it's unbelievable. You got to come back to the States, man. You got to go to school. And so that's what I did. My wife and I moved back from Italy. We got married in 1991, went to chiropractic college, and the rest is history.
Bro, what a story. What a
It's
story.
That's pretty unique. I don't think we've had too many people at all on this show with that type of background, so that's pretty insightful.
I think in life you learn things, you meet people, you learn things that can really change the trajectory of your life. And what I learned from the pharmaceutical industry is that they took money to craft a message to change a mindset, right? So that's the pathway: money, message, mindset. So fast forward, now I'm a chiropractor, right? So in 2000, I have this concept for Chiropractic Wellness and Fitness magazine, which would be the first direct-to-consumer publication on behalf of the industry to patients. And that's where I learned that you have to be able to turn your message into something that could radically shift somebody's paradigm. Now, we'll never have the money, or at least I don't think in our lifetime or our kids' lifetime, the money that is made from the pharmaceutical industry, but we still have to share that message. You guys crossed over 1 million downloads, which, dude, kudos. That's not easy, right? I mean, nobody sees you guys staying up late doing your research, prepping. Nobody funded this whole thing for you. You guys just took this baby and ran with it. So I get it. And when we started Chiropractic Wellness and Fitness magazine, I had to share this message to the world, right? So I stole what I learned, right? Well, I should call it R&D, right? Rip off and duplicate. So I ripped off and duplicated the direct-to-consumer mindset. Ask your doctor if chiropractic is right for you, right? And that's how it all began. And now it's 20 years, 15, 20 million copies printed, and the message goes around. But I think that's part of the journey. It's to take the best of what you learn and somehow apply it to your life, right? I didn't think back then that, we would, go for as long as we have. And I go to chiropractic offices around the country and I see that publication sitting there. I see the wellness poster on the wall, and that patient on the wall was a patient of mine in 2000. Little did she know that she would be reproduced in the publication and on the wall, the poster, millions of times, right? But that's the crazy life that we live, and how never to take it for granted an experience or a detour in your life, because you never know where that detour is going to lead.
And so now, as a chiropractor, in your own experience, what have you found to be the most effective way to get new patients to walk through your door?
That's a great question. I think that it's like anything else. You got to start with the people that already know you, like you, and trust you, right? So when they know you, like you, and trust you, that will help. Stephen Covey has a book called Growing at the Speed of Trust. So when you have trust, it accelerates a lot of things. So in chiropractic college, we have to treat patients that as a student, we're treating patients and we don't understand the value of our care, but we still have patients that we're going to treat. So we've got this small nucleus of patients that come in, but here's the key. I'm going to separate a couple things, because the chiropractic industry has an insatiable appetite for new patients. They're always like, oh man, I need new ones, right? I've worked with over 2,000 chiropractors. We've had 30,000 chiropractors that have bought something from us somewhere along the road. And here's what I can tell you. They don't suffer from new patients. They suffer from retention, right? And even though they desire to have a wellness practice, they typically will have a relief care model, which is a whole different conversation. So the best way to get new patients is to carry your message into the world, right? Into your own circles of influence. Initially, when you're in practice, you have more time than money, right? So we trade time and sweat, right? Into our communities, right? Years ago, I developed something called chiropractic workshops, Chiro workshops for short. And we've got probably 3,000 chiros that use our 1-hour workshop in their communities to generate 10, 15 new patients a month with 1 hour. So there's lots of ways to get new patients, right? The challenge is, how do we transition a patient to being a wellness patient? So most chiros that have been in practice for, let's say, 5 years, 7 years, they got 2,000-3,000 active files, right? They've treated 2,000 or 3,000 new ones, but yet they struggle seeing 100 patient visits a week. Why is that? right? Because really, unbeknownst to them, the way they've communicated chiropractic has related to a relief care model rather than wellness care. So nowadays you can use digital media, which you guys are the ninjas at, right? You can use print and ads. You can use workshops. You can use athletic performances and things like that to generate new ones. But what I learned from Jay Abraham, do you guys know Jay Abraham?
Of course.
Right. So I had one of the greatest business pleasures and opportunities of my lifetime. Back in 2006, we hired Jay to be our growth coach. Right. This is 2006. Right. This is when he charged only, and I say only, this is when he charged only $5,000 an hour. Right. And I had the opportunity to work with him for 1 hour a week for 3.5 years. Right. And so I learned from Jay, how to grow just about any business. And I'll never forget, I said, Jay, you got 10,000 clients in 400 industries. You must know dozens and dozens and dozens of ways to generate new business. And he goes, no, there's only 3, right? 3 ways to grow your business: more new ones, more retention, and more dollar per sale average. That's it. So when we focus on the new ones, it's a big part of it, but it's one part, right? We got to get them, keep them, and provide more services for them. So long-winded answer. I apologize for going tangential on that, but when focusing on new ones is sometimes it could be our albatross, right? It could be the very thing that causes us. Now think about it here, right? So again, you remember, I've worked with thousands of chiros, and I'll say, hey, are you taking your patient through an educational process and pathway? No, I don't have time for that. Okay, so I don't have time to educate my patients so that they understand why they're coming in. So what you've just done is reverse engineered them not knowing why they're coming in. So they stop after the 4th visit, which they do, by the way, which now causes you to have more new ones cycled through the office, which means now your overhead has to go up to treat more new ones and handle more new ones, rather than understanding that if you educate them and give them choices, that you will retain them longer, which decreases your need for new ones. Then you have the opportunity to add those services: weight loss, neuropathy, laser, cryotherapy, whatever the case may be. So the recipe is get them, keep them, sell them more stuff, right? But if you get them and lose them on the 4th visit, you got no shot. And that's part of the biggest challenge for most chiros.
You've made it to Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession on the world's #1 chiropractic podcast. This episode is sponsored by Imaging Services, Chiro Health USA, Chiro Moguls, Chiropractic Rocks, Pure Chiro Notes, Titronics, doTERRA, Sherman College of Chiropractic, New Patients in a Box, the Influencer Authority podcast training. Let's hustle. So I'm going to just compress some of the things that you said that I really got a lot of takeaways from the way you talk and the format that you've designed, the communication styles that you have. And I've switched one word out of the know, like, and trust and to become know, loved, and trust.
Yeah, I love that.
And
I'm writing that one down.
Yeah, that's from Napoleon Hill is the guy that said become known, loved, and known, liked, and trusted. And I said, well, what if we became loved? What if we had more love in this whole thing? And what you said also, just to compress, is I've heard this many times, is get them to stay, pay, and refer. And if you can continuously get them to stay, pay, and refer, you don't need to run as much traffic through the doors, because honestly, new business puts new stress on all cycles of the business. And it would make more sense. I've also heard this is give them what they want and sell them what they need. And if they're coming in and they want to understand chiropractic and they want chiropractic care, and then to compress another thing is, I know I'm hitting a lot of different verticals here, but they all go back to one road: is you're like, well, people want to come in and they leave after 4 cares, like relief care. And I'm like, well, most people want to treat chiropractic like urgent care, and they want to treat chiropractic like an expensive Advil. But
100%.
what happens is they get stuck on the cycle of the chiropractor wanting to be able to have a conversation with their colleagues and say, I'm at 250 this week. How are you doing? And it's a lot of posturing with these numbers, but really what it is get people healthy with chiropractic.
Yeah, 100%. And I think our own terminology, by the way, I wrote something down. You probably saw me writing. So now I'm going to say KL2T, right? Know, like, love, and trust. So I love that, but the thing is we weave our own web of failure, right? So what's the number one question that we ask our patient when we see them? How do you blank today?
Feel.
Okay, so it's all about how you feel today. Okay, so when the pain's gone, I'm
Better.
better. And so when the pain's gone, I'm gone.
Mm-hmm.
So if that's what we're constantly asking, that's what our staff is asking, we're weaving our own relief care model, right? So instead of how do you feel today, how are you functioning today? How are you moving today? Right?
Other
How are you doing
questions.
your daily activities? How are you doing with your sports performance? Right? And now you've radically shift the paradigm from feel to function. Now what we have to do is we have to put that into there's 5 steps in the pathway, right? You got your consultation, your examination, your report of findings, your treatment plan, and your payment plan. If you do those 5 things in that order, you're going to be in a good spot, right? So you got to do a killer consultation, but you can't just ask them where the pain is. You got to ask them, Jim, you're here because you got back pain. Okay. So when the back pain is gone, which for us happens very quickly, right? You do the research, you look at the articles and the stuff that we've given you to read in the video before coming in. We are masters at handling the back pain. So let me ask you this question, Jim. In about 2 weeks, when that back pain is gone, what do you want to be doing? Right?
Hiking up mountains, man.
Right? Oh, dude, when my back pain is gone, I'm going to start working out. When my back pain's gone, I'm going to start climbing mountains. I'm going to start doing a marathon or whatever. So that's awesome, because part of what we do in chiropractic is there's 3 phases. There's relief care, corrective care, and wellness care. And I'm going to go over those three different phases in what we call the report of findings. You're going to be able to choose the kind of care that you want to get. Does that make sense? Now I'm rushing this, but you get the point. Is sometimes our own terminology undermines what we're trying to say and who we're trying to be, right? By focusing in on pain rather than function. So now we got to have the killer consultation that asks questions like that. You got to have your examination that actually checks functional tests, not just static tests. You can't just do static x-rays, static orthopedic exams. You got to do functional tests like the balance test, right? You got to do tests like for posture, right? For movement while you're doing it. You got to do firing patterns, things like that. So now when I'm in the report of findings, right? Hey, James, we did the exam. You told me about what you want to do. Those types of things. Now we checked you. So here's what we're going to do. That's the report of the findings. And then we're weaving in our treatment plan, which is based on what they choose, relief, corrective, or wellness. You got to give them that choice. Studies show that you got to give them at least 3 choices. They'll look at the middle choice. If they can afford it, they'll look up. If they can't afford it, they'll look down. If you tell them this is what we're doing, and this is the only thing, you know what they'll do? They'll go like this, and they'll do that for 4 visits, and then they'll go like this, never to be seen again, right? And then the payment plan, right? The payment plan, we've done this a million times. They're not concerned with how much it costs. They're concerned with how can they pay for it. If you give them 3 or 4 options of how they can. Jim, listen, if money wasn't an option, what plan would you want to take? Relief, corrective, or wellness?
The best.
Right, the best. So what we'll do is we'll put together a monthly budget that works for you, right? Fair enough. And that's how you work it out. And many doctors are very successful at that. But what I'm trying to tie a bow around in this time that we have allotted today is, as chiropractors, we have to be mindful of the message we're communicating and the words that come out of our mouth and our staff's mouth. Because if you'll record it and you'll listen to it, which is a whole nother topic, which is actually quality controlling the voice recordings that are coming from your front desk, right? Many docs have your call will be recorded for quality control, but they never listen to them, right? Never listen to the calls. They don't listen to the language and the dialogue in their office. And that's a great start. Just making sure it's consistent and congruent with the message of wellness, not relief.
And so I'm curious to hear your opinion. How do you see chiropractic changing or evolving or growing or shrinking in the next 20 years or so? What do you think is going to happen?
Look, that is such a great question. I think we have the perfect storm for growth and expansion. Okay. I mean, a few years ago, right? If you talked about anti-vax, you were a whack job, right? I mean, one of the first articles I wrote in 2004 was Unconscionable. That was the title about vaccination. So our message obviously has been that forever. But now you don't have to convince people that vaccination needs to be talked about. Is there a better way, right? You don't have to talk to people about health being their priority, right? They now know, for the first time in decades, health has been the number one thing on people's mind.
They've been pressured into it.
Absolutely. So you got health on the table, which was never on the table. You got there's a better way from vaccinations, which who's done that for their whole profession? That's been us, right? And now you have a desire for people to find a different pathway. So as chiros, I believe the greatest years are ahead of us, because if we do what we've always done in an environment we've always been in, right? I asked a question. What percentage of population did chiropractors treat 100 years ago?
10%.
50 years ago?
10%.
Last year?
10%.
It's 10%. We haven't moved the needle. So we had an outside catastrophic event with unintended consequences that are advantageous for, I think, our industry. So Luke, great question. I don't have a crystal ball, but if we stay true to the message of the holistic wellness lifestyle, chiropractic is the only profession that is right in the middle of that perfect storm.
Amen. Well, we're running into the end of our time, but I'm curious, who are some of your, I guess, inspirations within the chiropractic profession, or people that have mentored you, or people that have helped you along your way?
Gosh, it's a great question. I've had the privilege of knowing some of the icons in our industry, Fab Mancini, who's a great friend of mine. I've had the opportunity to work with many of them, lots of the leaders, but outside the profession, I think, and this goes back to our conversation before, we turned on the record button. You talk to me about, what's important in life. And I talked about habitology and reverse engineering balance in your life. So I had the privilege of going to Zig Ziglar, who's really one of my all-time heroes. I had the privilege of going to being invited to his 80th birthday. And tons of people there, right? So here's the scene. So you got people all over this place, right? And you have two giant screens, that came down during dessert. And there were messages from people all over the world that said, Zig, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you. You made such a big difference in my life. And I'll never forget, I'm looking at the screen and I'm looking at Zig. And there's Zig, and he's got his arms around the redhead, right? His wife, he always calls her the redhead. And there's tears coming down his eyes. And I'm thinking, this is a guy who finished well, right? Finished well. So he's a hero of mine, just because he has lived his life this was his rule. He said, you can have anything in life you want by helping others get anything in life they want. And so, that's a lofty goal for all of us. But if it's something that we think about, we will become known, loved, and trusted, and we'll be able to impact and influence the people that are in, our sphere of influence. So great question.
Really powerful show, man. Really powerful episode. There's so many takeaways for me as just the guy that records these things and hosts the show. And that's a huge value add to me. So thank you for sharing so openly about the chiropractic method and sharing about your personal life and things that inspire you and parts of you that people might not have ever known. And I think that that's what really gives this show the standing power that it does is we are the men in the arena and we do the work.
Yeah, 100%.
And when you have good fundamentals with your science, philosophy, and art of chiropractic, not only that, but when you have your roots deep inside of you with performance and excellence, you do find good mentors along the way.
Yeah.
And one of my mentors once told me, you can't put your hand in a jar of honey without getting some of it on you. And it's like you can't be around people of excellence without having some of it become you. And through osmosis, I believe after Luke and I have done 1,000 interviews in 4 years. We've just published 352 of them. But when you think about the body of work that we've produced, it's been an amazing journey to be able to rub shoulders, even if it's digitally, with some of the most profound individuals in this profession. So now you're a part of that tapestry. You've woven your story into the Chiro Hustle legacy. And it's been really an honor to have you as one of our guests in episode 352. And is there anything, I guess I don't want to leave too early, but is there anything that we didn't ask you that you'd like to share with our audience today that we might not have asked you? And we still have to get some assets from you too, because Luke's going to ask that in a second, I'm sure.
Gosh, no, I think you guys covered it all. I mean, I think you did. I think our job is to really ensure that we carry the message to the marketplace so we can help to change the mindset of the people that are in our sphere of influence.
And what would be some websites that our listeners could go check out if they wanted to learn more about you or your history or what you're doing?
Yeah, so right now we spend most of our time in our software development projects. So there's not really a lot there. I would say just go to drccoaching.com. And, a lot of people ask us to help them to grow their business and things like that. I've given out my cell number all the time on podcasts like these. It's never abused. It's 972-835-7495. Feel free to text me, give me a jingle. One of my heroes outside of the industry, Bob Goff, he puts his cell phone number in the back of every book. And it's just a great practice to just pick up the phone and talk to people. So feel free to do that.
All right. So that's drccoaching.com.
Mm-hmm.
And the number is 972-835-7495.
You got it.
All right. Well, Dr. Frank, that has concluded our time together. And I want to thank you for being our guest this evening.
It's my pleasure. Thank you, guys.
Yeah. Thanks, Frank. I'll see you soon. Thank you so much for being in episode 352.
Thank you.
Bye. Enjoy your evening.
Bye for now. Thanks for listening to Chiro Hustle. Don't forget to subscribe and check back next week to continue hustling.